again, everyone. It's Merideth Nagel here with our Homeschool for Realtors, and this episode we're going to talk about access issues. So this is access issues. It's an issue that comes up on a lot of files, believe it or not, when we're going to close. I would say somewhere around 10 or so percent of the closings that we do have an access issue of some kind. So it's definitely a prevalent problem, and you need to understand it as it relates to your closings. So first and foremost, when you get that title commitment, and if you have any questions about the title commitment, take a look at our title commitment episode where we talk about the importance of the commitment and getting it early. The first thing you're going to look there is to make sure that there is no exception for access. That's your first indication that you have a problem. The title company has examined the file and they've determined that there are some questions about whether you have access or not. And you'll see that on the commitment as an exception for lack of access. Again, if you don't get a survey and you haven't gotten this commitment in time, your buyer might not understand that they have any problem at all. So again, see that title commitment episode for the importance of title commitments. So what do you do when you find out you have an access issue? So we talked about you find out about it by the commitment. The other way you find out is by survey, and the solutions are the same. The first thing that you have to do is figure out how are people actually driving to the property. And what you'll frequently find when you have an access problem is that there is a road. When you go to show the property or your client goes to look at it, there's a road to get there. And it's only later that you find that that road is not, in fact, a public road or a road that people have a legal right to travel across. Now, a lot of realtors mistakenly believe that if a road is named, that somehow that must mean that it is a legitimate public legal access. That's not true at all. There's lots of roadways throughout Central Florida that the varying county authorities and city authorities have named just because they need to have addresses for people who live there. They need to send the fire department to a specific place. They need to tell them what street it's on. So they give these roads streets, but they may in fact not be an actual road. If you have a question about whether a road you're traveling on to get to property is a real legit road or a county owned or city maintained road, the way you find out is to actually just give them a call. There's a road department, and you tell them what road that you're inquiring about, and they can tell you whether in fact that is a public road or not. If it's not a public road, then of course you have to find a way that you can legally travel across it. So the first and best way is to get an easement. That is a legal document that gives your folks the right to travel across someone else's property to get to their own. That's called an easement. And getting an easement is always the best way to solve the problem, but sometimes that's not possible. Another good option is a road maintenance agreement. Sometimes many people will be using a dirt road, for example, none of whom have access. And one of the things that we can do as a solution is put together a road maintenance agreement where everybody recognizes that there is a road that travels across their property, and that everyone will allow everyone else to travel across it and do what they need to do to keep that road maintained. So that's a road maintenance agreement as a second option. Now, I briefly mentioned the survey, and this is something that I am very passionate about, and that is the need for a survey. I am passionate about it for a couple reasons. First of all, it was my first job. I worked on a land survey crew when I was a teenager and learned a lot about it and fell in love, frankly, with the dirt, which is why I became a dirt lawyer. So I love surveying in general, but as a lawyer, I know that survey is frequently the only way that we're going to find out if our client has problems accessing their property. I am always disappointed when I see that realtors are not recommending surveys. Typically, if a survey is not recommended, it's because of cost. And I always say, if you're going to spend $250,000 on a house, you need to spend $450 to get a survey and make sure there's no problems. Now, don't think that just because you're in a platted subdivision that you don't need a survey. We have had access problems in platted subdivisions that we didn't discover until a survey. And recently, I had a file where when we got a survey in a platted subdivision, we found out that there was, in fact, an easement traveling right through the middle of these people's house. So the survey is important. So the first way to find out if you have access issues is obviously drive out to the property and what do you see? Inquire, ask questions if it looks to you like maybe it's not really a road. Call the municipality, call the county, find out if it's a public road. If it's not, then you're going to want to pay special attention to your title commitment. That's where you will see an exception for lack of access if there is no access. And when you know that that's in play, you really kind of have no choice at that point but to resort to a real estate lawyer. You don't have to call me. There are many good real estate lawyers in our area. But for an issue as important as access, you're going to have to engage a lawyer to find out what is the best option for your buyer. But don't be stymied. You will find a solution. In Florida, it is actually a law that no dwelling can be locked out of the nearest available public road. And so what that really means is that a house that's your people want to buy and it doesn't have access, if worse comes to worse, we can rely on the statute and get statutory access, because again, the Florida legislature has decided that access for residences is premium importance for obvious reasons. So as usual, if you have any questions about anything we've talked about or anything related to real estate, please feel free to give me a call, 352-394-7408, and we look forward to speaking with you.